The rain hammered against my back as I ran through the darkness. Something clinging to me, I could feel it, cold, wet hair whipping against my shoulders. Dead weight bouncing with each desperate step. Behind me, a headless figure stood motionless in the flooded field. And somewhere in that storm, a soft voice whispered, hehe, right into my ear. This is what happened 3 years ago at my high school. Let me tell you the whole story. This is a memory from my high school days. Behind our school was a sports field that always flooded when it rained. It used to be a rice paddy, so no surprise there. In Japan, many schools are built on former farmland, especially in suburban areas like ours. Beyond the field stretched endless rice paddies with houses scattered here and there, a peaceful rural setting. I was on the tennis team and practiced on that field every day, having a great time. That day was during the rainy season, what we call tsuyu in Japan, when heavy rains fall for weeks. The rain was coming down steadily. Obviously the field was completely waterlogged and muddy, so we couldn't practice. They switched us to running inside the school building instead. This is such a pain, I muttered. Everyone started complaining that this kind of practice was boring. We all really loved playing tennis, but when it came to getting better, we were picky about our methods. In the end, that practice was cancelled. Since we couldn't play tennis, they decided to dismiss us for the day. The team captain was awesome, but young fools like us weren't about to just go home. We holed up in the club room, and everyone started playing mahjong. I was terrible at mahjong, so I was reading a manga while quietly getting excited, thinking about the cute girls from the neighboring girls' tennis club. Hey, want to do a test of courage? Marcus suddenly said something weird. Marcus was the kind of guy who always suggested strange games to entertain everyone. He was pretty funny, and more importantly, his nickname was perfect for his personality. Sounds good. Let's do it, everyone said. We were all idiots, so we went along with the suggestion. Where should we do it? Let's go to the girls' club room next door. That's not a test of courage. That's just being perverts. After some discussion, we decided the location would be from the school to the far end of the backfield, what we called the backfield, to the rugby goalposts. We'd each place a tennis ball there and come back. The rainy evening twilight with no lights was pretty creepy. The rain was no longer gentle but getting heavier, becoming a proper downpour. Let's invite the girls too. Their shirts will definitely get see-through in this rain, Jake shouted, being an idiot. No way, the manager will definitely complain, someone replied. So that was rejected. We played rock paper scissors to decide the order. I came in third. First was Tommy. Second was Alex. Fourth was Marcus. Fifth was Jake. When it was time to actually go out, everyone's faces suddenly darkened. When you actually have to do something like this, it gets scary. Breaking through that gloomy atmosphere, Tommy energetically said, "Alright, I'm going. Here I go," and headed out. The captain and other upperclassmen were already getting ready to leave. "You guys doing a test of courage? You're really idiot. Don't lose the key," he said, handing the spare club room key to Marcus. With the rain pouring down, the clock struck 5:30. The girls next door were also heading home. Other clubs, except for those using the gym or cultural clubs, were mostly starting to leave. You could hear brass instruments playing from the school building. "I hope Tommy doesn't fall in the river," someone joked. "He might get stuck on a telephone pole," another added. "More manga references, Marcus." About 15 minutes passed. Tommy came back. "How was it, Tommy? Did you see any ghosts? Did you step in poop?" Tommy said, "Nothing special. Nothing there at all. If I had to say something, the field was really slimy. That's all. Come on. Say something more interesting." "Boring." "Shut up. Then the next person can go. You virgin." "Shut up. Everyone here is a virgin. Including you." And so on. It ended with boring results. And Alex went out next. The sky was getting seriously dark now. "Oh," Tommy said suddenly. "What is it, Tommy?" That old man earlier. That couldn't have been real, right? That was such a chilling comment that I immediately asked back, what old man? Looking at my phone, the clock had passed 6 out. Alex wasn't coming back. I thought he left around 5:55. But now it was already 6:25. Even taking it slow, it should only take 15 minutes to go and come back. Tommy, what's this about an old man? Marcus asked. Well, I guess I was spacing out. There was someone who looked exactly like my uncle from the countryside standing in the corner of the field. The atmosphere in the clubroom suddenly became tense. I remember from that moment on, I really didn't want to go out there. The thought of some unknown old man standing in the field in this heavy rain was scary enough. And after that conversation, it was now 6:25. Alex might be in trouble. Let's all go together. We all grabbed our rackets and headed out. At first everyone was laughing. What Tommy saw was probably just his imagination. Chicken, but since Alex wasn't coming back, it was getting darker and darker. If that old man was some kind of weirdo, and in the rain on the field, he'd definitely be weird. This is bad. Alex is in trouble. When we got outside the clubroom, the rain was much heavier than we expected. Nobody said anything. Each of us holding rackets, we left the semi-basement clubroom, passed by the library and school building, and headed toward the path that led down to the backfield via the archery range. Even though it was close to the summer solstice, it was incredibly dark at 6. The clouds must have been really thick. At that time, honestly, I was scared but also excited. With this many people, we could easily handle one old man. I had that feeling too, but since we started this as a test of courage, I think we were afraid of seeing something unknown. To get from the school building to the backfield, you have to cross one public road. After passing the short slope from the archery range, and crossing the bridge over the irrigation canal, when we crossed the road we could see Alex in the field. The irrigation canal flows around the back of the school like a moat. It's very clean with fish in it. But that day it was really muddy from all the rain. Alex seemed to be heading toward us. There didn't seem to be any old man around. We all felt relieved. Alex looks fine, someone said. Marcus opened the chain link gate to the field and went in. Everyone followed. Hey Alex, you're so slow, what were you doing? We shouted toward Alex, who was about 150 meters away. Alex didn't answer. He was coming toward us. Something's weird about Alex, isn't it? The field was muddy, making it hard to walk. The rugby team's going to be mad about the field maintenance. Someone joked. They won't know it was us, no worries. Hey Alex. Suddenly Alex started screaming. No, no, no. He was still about 100 meters away. Everyone stopped walking. Fear returned to us. Honestly, I wanted to run away. It was the first time I'd heard Alex cry and scream like that. And I couldn't tell who he was screaming at. There didn't seem to be anything nearby. Naturally, we all looked around. We looked at the corners of the field too, but there was nothing. Nobody there. Nothing near Alex either. Alex was crying. Again he screamed, I don't want this. Stop. He was sobbing and talking. I really wanted to run away. Marcus shouted, Hey, Alex, what's wrong? With his face completely white, and started running. Since nobody wanted to be left behind, we all sprinted toward Alex. The rain was intense. So dark. What time was it? When we got close to Alex, we were shocked. A hand was sticking out of the ground at Alex's feet. And Alex's foot was firmly gripped by that hand. So that's why he seemed to be trying to come toward us. But looked strange. Nobody could say anything. Please get this off me, Alex cried, asking me for help. I stepped back and stared at the hand at his feet. My heart was acting weird. My head hurt too. My vision felt narrow. A mannequin's hand. It was a mannequin's hand. But why was something like this sticking out of the middle of the field? Even knowing it was a mannequin's hand, I was scared to remove it. If Alex hadn't been caught up in this during a test of courage, he probably wouldn't have panicked so much. And it was already completely dark around us. Being alone in the middle of the field in the rain, unable to move because a mannequin's hand was gripping your foot. That's terrifying. The hand that was tightly embedded took 5 minutes to finally remove. Alex said that after he placed the ball at the goal, he suddenly got scared and tried to dash back when his foot was suddenly caught. When he looked down at his feet, he saw a human hand. That must have been quite a shock, even though he quickly realized it was a mannequin's hand. He'd been struggling for about 10 minutes. But because he was panicking, he couldn't get it off. He must have really charged in at full speed. That's what caused the panic. Did you see any weird old man? Tommy asked Alec. I don't know, but while I was struggling, probably because I was so scared, I heard footsteps coming toward me. I didn't want to look, so I closed my eyes. But it was probably just my imagination. Alex, now that he was with everyone, seemed a bit calmer and spoke embarrassedly. Let's go home, Tommy said. Jake, Marcus, me and Alex all nodded. We all started to head back across the field. Nobody mentioned what Alex said he heard. We didn't have the luxury to discuss it. We were too scared. The rain was soaking us completely. Why did we do something like this? We should have stopped the test of courage. Thinking that, while worrying about Alex, we all turned toward the school building. That's when we heard it. This was the sound of shoes walking through muddy sand. Someone was right behind us. We couldn't move. Nobody could move. We screamed. The field was about 300 meters from end to end. We were right in the middle, so it was 150 meters to the chain link gate. But at that moment, it felt incredibly long. There was nobody there, but suddenly someone was in the middle of the field. That's impossible. It was a woman's voice, not the old man. Why was a mannequin buried there? Why was there nobody there but suddenly someone in the middle? That's impossible. It was a woman's voice, not the old man. You could hear everyone's wah screams. Everyone was screaming in fear while running. We burst through the chain link gate from the field. By then we were too scared to even enter the school, and we froze in the middle of the road between the school and the field. When I came to my senses, the rain had become lighter. Everyone was breathing heavily, faces completely white, looking toward the field. There was still nothing there. Did you hear it? I asked Marcus. Yeah, Marcus nodded. Everyone looked at each other's faces. We'd all left our rackets behind. Only Jake still had his. If you get tennis rackets soaking wet, they become useless. We had to go get them. The field was pitch black, with only the streetlight illuminating us. Looking at Tommy's phone, it wasn't even 7 hours yet. I'll go get them, I said. I really tried hard. I think I'd watched Armageddon or something like that the week before, which is why I made such a declaration. I borrowed Jake's racket and went down to the field. Still nothing there. Even if there was something, I just beat it with the racket. It was probably just some weird old man or woman. When I'd gone about 50 meters, there was something fuzzy lying in the rain. It was a severed head. I was scared but also relieved, because now I was sure that the hand from before really was a mannequin. I'd been starting to think that maybe the mannequin had moved, so this was good evidence to calm me down. But when I looked up, there was a person standing in the middle of the field. Who's there? I shouted angrily. But the figure didn't move. It really didn't seem to be breathing at all. It was like an object. The mannequin stood up. That figure had no head. The rackets were scattered around the mannequin. I wanted to run. My vision was getting narrow again. The rain had stopped. No more sound. I could hear cars in the distance. You could faintly see lights from nearby houses. But in front of me was a standing mannequin. It was almost completely dark. I was scared to look behind me too. I couldn't move forward either. Then, right in my ear, I heard, hehe. I swung the racket behind me without looking back. There was a thunk sound and I heard Huga. At the same time, the mannequin fell forward, screaming wah. I gathered up the rackets and ran. Something grabbed onto me. I opened my eyes. Right in front of me was the mannequin's head. No facial expression. Its eyes were glittering. Its hair was soaking wet and muddy. I headbutted the mannequin. "Are you okay?" I heard Marcus's voice. The severed head stuck to my back. I ran. I didn't want to see what was clinging to me. I ran with my eyes closed. The severed head kept banging against my back, making horrible crying sounds. I fled from the field. After getting out of the field, I ran to everyone and hugged them without saying anything. Everyone was crying, making hehe sounds, apparently too scared to even hug back properly. We decided to avoid the dark slope by the archery range and return to the club room through the main gate. We returned to the club room through the main gate, took off our muddy jerseys, and wiped ourselves down. Nobody said a word. We decided to go home like that. The club room clock showed around 7:45. Everyone walked to the station in silence. We separated from Alex and Tommy, who were going different directions, and Jake and I went home together. On the train, Jake only said, "Let's keep this secret." I didn't care anymore what that thing was. At my station, I separated from Jake. The rain had completely stopped, and only the asphalt was wet. Walking down the dark street, I couldn't help but remember what happened. I wondered if that mannequin might follow me. No way it would come. I hurried home. I reached home without incident, but when I opened the door, I thought I heard hehe. Someone had come up behind me. When I came to, I was in my own room. It was morning. My father had found me sleeping in front of the door. Since I wasn't hurt and was just sleeping, he put me to bed. Later, I learned from someone on the rugby team that an artist lived near that field. He was a bit mentally unstable and was often seen trespassing on the field doing strange things. He would break and bury dolls. When someone from the rugby team asked why he buried them, he said, "Because they're buried." No matter what they asked, he would only answer, "Because they're buried." So they stopped asking. After that, I never heard that voice around me again. Nothing happened to my friends either, and we safely graduated from school. This is what I've written, trying to remember as much as possible about what actually happened 3 years ago. I only wrote down the dialogue that I remember clearly, but my memory is fuzzy. But whose voice was that? It's still a mystery. Was it the voice of that artist old man, but following me all the way home to scare me? Was he that angry about being hit with the racket? In any case, I feel like I was the victim of an elaborate prank. Was he lying flat in the field to make it look like no one was there? How did he make the mannequin stand up? How did just the mannequin's head stick to my back? Were we just abnormally scared? Even though various circumstances came together to create a frightening environment, I still can't make sense of it all. But one thing I can say for certain is this. In front of my house door, along with my collapsed body, there was also a clump of the mannequin's black hair left behind. So I ask you, listeners, was it really just an elaborate prank by a disturbed artist? Or was there something else in that flooded field that rainy night? And if you found yourself in a similar situation, would you have been brave enough to go back for those rackets? Think about it the next time you hear footsteps behind you in the rain.